Welcome to Coffee and History, a conversation with Alabama heritage. We are your hosts. I'm Rebecca Mender.
I'm Susan Reynolds.
And I'm Caroline Gazera-McKenzie.
Join us as we sit down with some of the most fascinating folks in the state of Alabama over a cup of coffee or your beverage of choice. And ladies, today I think I'm amongst the three of us, I'm the only one who prefers hot coffee over cold.
Yeah,
is that true?
That's true.
I have in between. I like both. I've been in a hot phase recently, but I also really like iced coffee. What can I say?
Been in a hot phase.
What can I say? I just love caffeine.
I think that's called menopause, but you're really too young for that.
I'm only in my 30s, so
that's true. No, you're in your 20s. Sorry.
Oh, that's a correction.
We're not allowing that.
I'm still in my 20s, but in my spirit, I am in my 30s.
Susan, do you ever drink hot coffee?
No.
I've only seen you drink cold coffee, like iced coffee.
Iced coffee forever. Plain, black.
Do you drink anything
Like your
hot?
soul?
Like my soul.
Do you drink hot cocoa or hot tea?
I mean, I will. It's not that I don't like it. I just...
That's her
It is
preference.
kind of weird. I've just never seen her drink anything hot.
I'm hot enough.
You could have noted earlier today I had a hot coffee, so you know that I'm throwing you for a loop.
There you go.
Okay.
Just saying.
Full of surprises, Caroline.
Let's
what
move
other
this
surprises do you have for us today, Caroline?
Well, I'm also the one who's going to share our most interesting fact in our Did You Know segment today. So, listeners, before we get started, did you know that according to Coffee Bean website, there are approximately 46 coffee roasters in the state of Alabama? As you know, not all coffee shops roast their own coffee beans, so I found this really fascinating.
Coffee Bean website. That is kind of cool. You know, there is a new one here in Tuscaloosa, too, and I was thinking maybe this should be a sponsor of our
I have a
podcast.
list of people of coffee roasters in this state.
It sounds like we have 46 now, so
Yeah.
we can get 46 sponsors.
Possibly, or maybe we can just get, a couple of those, maybe.
Or just take 46 road trips.
Ooh, coffee taste testing. Yes.
Y'all, they roast the coffee. Doesn't mean they brew it.
But that's,
can
What are you
bring
going
it
to
home.
like?
Yeah,
Eat
I
the
can-
coffee bean, dip
I
it
can
in chocolate.
smell the coffee, okay?
I love it. I love chocolate.
Just for a quick comparison, according to this website, Georgia has 71 roasters, while Mississippi has 18. So that sounds about right for many things to have Alabama smack dab in the middle,
Yeah, that's about right.
So I love coffee, and I think we should go on a road trip. Susan has my vote.
I've noticed that a lot of our guests don't even drink coffee. We've offered it to them. A lot of them drink water. So maybe we should change this to like water in history.
No.
Or watered down history.
No.
Let's call it that.
No.
We have a name. Stop trying to rename
Okay,
us.
sorry. I'll just stop now.
Yeah, please do.
So Susan, go ahead.
Today's guest is W. Henry Sledge, author, historian, and son of Eugene Sledge, whose iconic memoir, With the Old Breed, shaped how we understand the Pacific War. Henry brings a unique perspective, having grown up watching his father craft that powerful narrative. Henry has contributed to Valor Studios, Naval History Magazine, and World War II Magazine, and has appeared on numerous documentaries and podcasts. His new book, The Old Breed, The Complete Story Revealed, blends never-before-published material from his father's work with personal reflections, offering an intimate look behind the scenes. It's compelling, it's moving, and we're thrilled to have you here.
Welcome.
Well, I appreciate it.
Welcome, Henry. Woo!
I want a cup of hot coffee.
I can go make you some
We
right
can
now.
hook you up.
We got you. We have
there,
coffee.
we got a table over there full of hot coffee.
Well, I don't want to put anybody in any special work, but it would.
Well, we'll make it happen. We
it's
can
all
do
good.
it. But we can bring you some water if you want some water now.
But do you have a coffee preference since we all shared ours?
Straight up black.
There
hot.
you go.
Okay.
Is that the way your dad drank it?
Well, the funny thing is he talks about drinking coffee in the book, but I never saw him drink coffee.
Huh.
Never.
I wonder if they just drank it because it was there, or maybe because they need the extra caffeine to
I
keep
think
them
all
going.
of the above on
Yeah.
that. It was there. It was fortifying. It was hot, especially on Okinawa when it was really cold and rainy.
Right.
So,
And my dad was on a ship and caffeine kept him going. Like he
oh
drank
God,
all-
Navy guys kill it. But
Yeah.
no, I never saw my dad drink coffee.
That's
Wow.
funny.
That's interesting. Well, since we got the coffee part of this squared away, so
Which is always important.
I know it's
Very
very, true.
important.
So another fun fact about you, your brother is John Sledge, who's written for us many, many times.
Yes, he has.
And we were just wondering, how was the decision made between the two of you who would kind of take on this project of kind of covering your dad's book?
When I started coming up with this Well, my mother was the inspiration to do this because she was the one who said, Henry, you need to get your hands on that unedited material that's in the archives at Auburn University. And I knew that I wanted to write a book. I knew that my brother has written 10. When I really started the process, he and I talked, many times, but he said, look, World War II, that's your thing. Mm-hmm. That's your jam. That's your area. It's just not his area of specialty. So it was really a pretty easy. He said, man, I'm here to talk if you want to, but that's your bag.
Well, I'm glad you did it. And I think a lot of people are glad that you did it. And I know when we went to go see you at Page and Palette, that was one of the things that was, for me, quite memorable, is so many people who stood up and said, well, let me tell you about my dad, or I knew this about that, and They all seem to have their stories. And I think it was chapter 19 where you mentioned, I think it's Joe Lambert's son, who said, I was born after, my father had died. So I never even met him, didn't even get to know him until your father wrote about him in his book.
Yeah,
and so
that was his only connection to his dad.
Moments like that are extremely powerful. And I'm wondering if you had more moments like that, where people have told you those types of stories, or just even for you. You were fortunate to have your dad in your life, but did it give you a deeper connection with him going through this?
Yeah, of course it did. I guess I'll speak to the first thing you said, more moments like the conversation with Smokin' Joe Lambert's son.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about Smokin' Joe Lambert was a demolitions guy. And all the demolitions guys, they had their demolitions charges. They always smoked a cigar because they take the cigar and light the fuse before they throw it into a Japanese occupied cave. But that was a pretty heavy moment. That was a conversation that, I've told that story and gotten really emotional telling it, because this man in 2003 or whatever I said it was, 2004, was really emotional with me. But another lighter moment kind of like that is the photograph that I chose to be the cover of the book shows my dad and several of his K Company buddies on Okinawa after the fighting was over. And one of the gentlemen, his name's Dan Lawler, his son and I have talked. And so when I started pushing the book on social media before it came out, he said, I'm so glad you used a copy of our dads together as your cover.
Yeah.
And that particular photograph is one of my favorites of my dad because it's just a cool picture. He's got his helmet kind of cocked over. It's just a really cool picture. That was not in his book. But I remember that photograph really well because when I was a kid, it was on just this really cheap little plastic frame on the filing cabinet in his office at the University of Montevallo. And so I'd go over there as a kid to visit him, which I talked a lot about, but I would always see that picture there.
Yeah.
And then in years later, when his book With the Old Breed was published, not even that long before he passed away, I was like, Dad, that is the coolest picture of you. If I can say it's the most badass picture.
Right.
Can I say that?
You can say whatever you want. We have great editors.
Okay. We won't make it harder. But I just said, that's such a cool picture of you. Why did you not use that in the book? And he said, because I didn't write this to be about me. I wrote it to be about K Company and about the Marines I fought with. So anyway, that's kind of getting a little sidetracked. But the answer to your question, Rebecca, is yes, there have been a lot of moments. And they just keep coming. There's a guy that I mentioned in there named Tom Clay, who was with my dad's company commander, Akak, when he was killed on Peleliu, which was an incredibly emotional moment for those guys because they loved their company commander. And Tom Clay was a K Company guy who my dad talked to after the fighting was over. And I think he was from Mobile also. His grandson has reached out to me. Mm-hmm. So a lot of things like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to use the expression, the tentacles, just, everybody has somebody in their family who served in World War II.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So it's just a really powerful thing that affects, like the thing at Page and Palette, seeing the people standing up and, I had an uncle who was here. I had, a grandfather who was here. He never would talk about it, or I wanted to learn more. I guess I was really lucky to have a dad who talked as much as he did.
Definitely.
Because a lot of them don't. Yeah. And just to let our listeners know, Page and Palette is an independent bookstore in Fairhope, Alabama, and they pretty much are the heart of the downtown community, and they do a lot with the community down there. And so it's a great place. It's a great bookstore, coffee shop, great place to have author events. So we were lucky to see Henry there with his brother John interviewing him that night.
That was cool to do. I mean, I've done that author conversation. I mean, you've been through it with your husband. I have done that a lot in a lot of venues, really all over the world. In England before I got published. But to do it with my brother was pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely.
But, and you guys know John. I mean, he called me up and he, like a month before, and he said, "Hey, man, I know you talked to Tyler, and this is your jam. I don't want to get in the middle of it, but I'd love to be the one to have that conversation with you if you're cool with that." And I know my brother is totally, like my dad, no personal ego at all.
Yeah.
I think I'm that way. I try to be.
Well, you and your brother are a little bit different, but that's
we
okay,
are.
and that's what makes you unique.
We are very different, but we have a great relationship.
Yes, you really do.
Yeah.
And that really showed during your conversation as well. And just as another brief shout out to John Sledge, as we are recording this, today is his birthday.
It sure is.
So
Happy birthday, John.
this episode
Texted him
probably
and said happy birthday.
this episode won't come out till probably later during the winter time, but happy birthday belated to John Sledge.
Yep. So your father mentioned many individuals in his books, and naturally they appear in yours as well. Have you ever heard from readers who found the stories so vivid or emotionally intense that they struggled to read them?
At this point, not really, because it's still, within that arc of working on the book, seeing it come to fruition, getting it published. We're still pretty early in that arc.
Okay.
Because it just hasn't been out that long. But to address what you said, I mean, there were people who said that about my dad's book.
Right.
Because, I mean, his writing, it can be very vivid. And so just knowing.
Well, it was unblinking.
Yeah.
But that's the way he wanted. He was just a very direct guy, I mean, there was no cloaking it in politically correct terms. There was no couching it in more palatable language. I mean, it was what he experienced. He was going to make sure if you wanted to have that conversation with him, he was going to pull you in and you were going to have that conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, how did the survivors feel about being in the book? Did they feel like they were well received,
Yes.
perceived in general?
And my father's, but yes, we're speaking in that context. I mean, that was the thing. I mean, if you'd known my dad and he was a scientist. A scientist is trained to do your research, verify what you write, double verify if you have to. And so achieving that degree of accuracy and verisimilitude and unquestioned detail to the truth, or unquestioned attention to detail and to the facts, that's just the kind of person that my dad was. And so he knew that very likely these men he was writing about would end up seeing this book. And case in point, Snafu Shelton. You know who Snafu was. Very well represented in the Pacific miniseries. He chanced upon With the Old Breed at some point after it came out around 1981. Because anything that says With the Old Breed at Peleliu and Okinawa, in the larger scheme of things, Peleliu was not a Normandy. It's not like there were tens and tens and tens of thousands of young men who fought at Peleliu.
Right.
If something said Peleliu, it's going to get your attention if you were there.
Right.
Because
Because it's not as well known to most Americans.
Certainly not in 1981. And
Right.
maybe a little more so now,
Yeah.
After the Pacific and after my dad's book has been out for 44 years. But to stick into your question, I mean, I think they felt like, and he had actually already had the Peleliu portion of his book published in the Marine Corps Gazette because it was discussing a very specific aspect of the Peleliu battle, and that was the way the Japanese defended the island. I won't get off into all the detail with that, but I think other Marines saw that he hewed directly to the truth and told it like it was.
Well, it's kind of speaking of that. Like, do you think you have a similar writing style to your father, or do you differ in different ways?
I've had people tell me who've read it. I have heard from a few people that they think my writing style is similar to his, but there I have to be careful and not, I hold myself up. I mean, it may have been you, Rebecca, I can't remember, in Fairhope that asked the question, or maybe it was somebody else who said, does it cause you any amount of angst or stress
That was me.
Okay.
Well, I also...
It was a very
Sounds like a
incisive...
Rebecca
Well,
thing.
I mean, I was also asking more about imposter syndrome. So
I do remember you asked about that.
Yeah, I did ask about imposter syndrome because, I mean, when you have a father who has written a book that, became...
It's monumental.
It's very popular. It's also source material for the Pacific and the Ken Burns, documentary. Mm-hmm. So then it's just, to me... Personally, it would have been very daunting to think, oh, now I've got to try to follow that up, and he's not here to help me with it,
Right. And it was.
Yeah.
It's that I'm not going to make some glib comment about, oh, I never thought about that. I just had my mission objective and charged straight. No, I did think about it.
Yeah.
Because I said from the word go that I wanted my book, because it had unedited material that was edited out of his, I wanted to create something that could live beside his, if it's meant to be.
Right.
And so, I mean, yes, that's something I thought about a lot.
So when you were thinking about it too, in terms of putting it together, like you mentioned just a few minutes ago, your dad is more matter of fact in his writing, and yours is, so his seems more impersonal because he's kind of got this outsider's view, whereas yours is obviously very personal because you're giving these anecdotes of, just so the listeners understand what I'm trying to say here. Let me back up. In the book, you have the cut version of the manuscript that is in bold, and that's your father's words. And so you'll have a paragraph or two or a sentence, whatever it might be, could be a full chapter. And then after that, you have your own personal story that goes with that. And so then that's when you're bringing in anecdotes where it's like, yeah, I remember sitting on the den floor and playing with these toys or whatever while my dad said, yeah, we had such and such as well. And it's this whole thing. And so what made you decide that this was the format that you wanted to create the book as opposed to just like publishing his work? What made you want to have that kind of give and take between you and him?
Well, so my brother and I actually had some conversations. My number one goal was getting that material of my dad's that nobody had seen. I wanted to get that in front of people. Mm-hmm. This was never about me telling my story. It was about me getting that writing of his that was edited out of his book and bring it to the light of day. How did I arrive at that conceptual framework of the formula that I chose? That was a pretty quick process of evolution, I guess. My brother and I talked about maybe doing an annotated or abridged version of With the Old Breed. And I had that thought. And then he said, he probably gave me the best. He said, look, it's kind of axiomatic. You don't mess with a classic.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You don't change the Coke formula when it's already doing pretty good.
Yeah, because Coke was horrible. Coca-Cola's, New Coke was really bad.
So With the Old Breed is doing just fine. It never has needed my hands on it. It's doing just fine. So I began to think, well, what can I do? I want to do something. I want to create a book for this material. I've got to have a conceptual framework. What do I do? What's the best way to make this happen? I actually at one point thought about a co-author, not my brother. I mean, it would have been great to work on this with him, but he said from the very beginning, this is you do this. I did talk to another individual who's written several books. I'm not going to go into who he was. We're friends. I know him fairly well. I'm kind of glad that didn't work out. Just from a personality standpoint, I don't think we would have. Well, looking at it now that I've done this, it's got my name on it. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But in the fall of 2021, when this was still just swimming around in my head, I didn't know if I could pull it off or not.
Yeah.
But I was talking to a historian friend of mine, Richard Frank. He's written a few books he is top flight World War II scholar, author, historian. I think the number one authority on the Pacific theater. Very good friend of mine. In fact, I'll be speaking with him in Texas and then again in New Orleans in November.
Nice.
But Richard, if you write something on the Pacific theater, you want Rich Frank's imprimatur on your work. And so I reached out to him and just said, Rich, let me tell you what's going on. And he's a huge admirer of my father's. And he said, look, Henry, I think you just need to write a companion piece. And so that was how I decided to do it. Now, as I began to flesh out, a lot of people, and now we're kind of getting more into how do writers, how do they function?
Yeah.
The way most people would do it, my brother included, and my dad included, they would make an outline of how they want to do this. My process was a lot more organic, a lot more emotive, a lot more in the moment.
Yeah.
I sat down with that material. I had gone through and highlighted the original manuscript of what got edited out. You heard me tell the story. And I sat back and I reread all that material. I made notes in the margins of the original manuscript, and I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to use. And then I thought, the way I'm going to do this is I'm just going to sit down and start transcribing that into my own manuscript. And then I'll use my voice to chime in with anecdotal memories or whatever. I mean, I got to be honest, I really wanted to minimize my voice as much as possible because all I cared about was the stuff in
what
bulk.
he had to say, yeah.
And honestly, I will tell you things that a lot of people have said to me. I'm glad that I did put my own voice in there, but just because of what they have said. It was no desire for personal self-aggrandizement, but hearing people say, and I had several readers before it went to press, like 8 or 10, and they said, your voice in this was pretty compelling, because we're not, the story of Eugene Sledge, Sledgehammer, the Pacific miniseries with the Old Breed, that is public knowledge. That's a well-known story. But a lot of the questions people had were, they watched the Pacific, which I love the Pacific. Yeah. And I've done more podcasts than I could ever count, speaking of the Pacific only. And there's a long story. I hated it at first, but I grew to love it. Okay. But you see Sledge struggle when he comes home. He comes home and he has nightmares and it's just a really hard transition. He's dealing with a lot of PTSD. There's a lot going on up here in his head. And so what people apparently see from what I wrote was through your writing, Henry, we see how this guy kind of worked it out as a father.
Yeah.
And fortunately for me and for John, for my brother, it was a happy story, because I've always said that he was very good at compartmentalizing things. I know he dealt with a lot of really horrible stuff, but he was determined to not let that bleed over into his family life. That's a really happy, fortunate story. I would be remiss if I did not mention that a lot of people were not so fortunate.
Right. Exactly. Well, a lot of people, the service person did not come home. And then, like you had mentioned before, some people who did come home just didn't want to talk about it. And so you really have no idea what they went through until you see them acting out or behaving in a way that they didn't act before. And so, and back then, a lot of people didn't understand PTSD or any of that kind of stuff. So I'm sure this story and having your perspective as a son, I think is probably extremely important for a lot of people who have gone through something like this. So they can understand, just like the guy we were just talking about who never even met his father. And now he understands this is what it would have been like for my dad. So I think it's important to have your voice in there because it does give it, because like we were saying, your father's writing is kind of, it was very simple, straightforward. He does have some flowery information in there. When he's talking about scenery and stuff like that, it can be very beautiful. But I feel like he's given you the nuts and bolts of what he's going through, but then having your perspective of it and then watching him as he's telling you stories about what he went through. It's just very powerful.
Well, one of the things,
and I think it had to have been very cathartic for you as well in terms of writing it.
Yeah, it was. So I started actually writing, I guess, early 2022. I did my research late 2021 on into the spring of 2022. And my mother was still alive and in really good shape at that point. And as I say in there, she was my inspiration. And we had some conversations. It's not like she was at my elbow as I wrote. That was not the case. In fact, there were only 50 pages of it she ever got to see. But she was 95.
Well, first of all, your mother saw all of it because she was the original editor of the manuscript for your dad.
Oh, yeah. No, she did. No, mom was there for all of it. But she got sick and then passed away during this while I was writing it.
Right.
not once through the entire process did I ever miss a beat. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the last few months of her life were very challenging. She'd had a wonderful life and had enjoyed incredible health, but 95 years old, things just start breaking down.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so the last 4 or 5 months were pretty rough. But, even when she passed away, I never missed a beat. I mean, now it sort of, and I'll say this, we'll keep a light mood here, but one of the last things she said to me was, finish that book.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was always going to be finished. I mean, I didn't doubt that I would, but, it certainly didn't hurt that she said that.
Right.
Yeah.
To tangent back to still to the book, but just in question, do you think that this book would appeal to younger audiences?
I really hope that it would. I mean, obviously, it's going to mean the most to people who grew up back in the 70s and 80s, because they remember all the same damn shows that we watched and the same damn movies that we watched. But I'd like to think that somehow, I actually have heard of some younger people who've read it, who enjoyed it. I've heard of one guy reached out to me on Facebook. I still don't know how this happened. Somehow he and his wife and their 9-year-old son were listening to the audio version. Mm-hmm. And his son may have even been younger than that, but his son just loved it. That's all he wanted to listen to.
I actually know quite a few young men that are fascinated with World War II history.
Well, there are.
So, that there's a market there for especially younger generations.
Well, and you have the Pacific miniseries. You have my father's book, which continually is being seen by young generations or younger generations of both men and women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I love to hear that, because this is not a thing that's like, hey, I'm only talking to the gun show, that 50 plus crowd that goes to a gun show. I don't give a damn about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is a story that I think can appeal to anybody who had someone fight in World War II. And even if you didn't, I would hope that gets into the whole, my buddy John McManus, World War II historian. He's written probably 20 books. Really good friend of mine. John was one of my advisors with this. One of the first people I talked to about my whole concept and my whole idea. He said, well, who do you want to market this book for? Who do you want your target audience to be? And I said, well, I want it to go as big as it can go, of course, but I'm not saying that from any fiduciary standpoint. Right. I'm saying it just because I want as many people to see this as is possible. So in other words, I wasn't out to just write to people who were going to go to the World War II Museum.
Yeah.
So I was trying to cast a broader net. I would love it if a 45-year-old housewife from some damn where in Michigan who's never watched a World War II movie or read a World War II book. And I actually have heard this. They said, I read your book and I really liked it. You have a really compelling way of writing. That's cool. That's cool. I like to hear that. But then I also wanted to achieve that degree of accuracy and factual legitimacy that when I go speak in Texas or at the Citadel, where I'll be in November, when I speak at the World War II Museum, and I'm sitting elbow to elbow with these very erudite, learned gentlemen who've written a number of books, many of which I've read, I wanted to have some degree of legitimacy with them.
Yeah.
And just out of respect for my father, they would accord that to me to a degree, but I wanted to take it a step further, which is why I have footnotes in there for Richard Frank and Saul David and other pretty established works of extant World War II scholarship.
Yeah.
Well, when did you first get the writing bug? I mean, have you always written, or is this new?
I mean, well, I've written a couple of magazine articles. That's a solid question. I mean, I was kind of fascinated with the process as a kid, I guess, but I never dreamed of, one day I want to write a book. I never
right.
dreamed
I mean,
of that.
with a degree in poli-sci, why didn't you go into politics?
Well, the politicians we have now are just so good. How do you compete with that? Rebecca, come on.
But you could be even better. I mean, you've got the voice of Joe Buck, which we will discuss later because no one at this table besides me knows who Joe Buck is.
Apparently, I don't either.
If
anybody's listened to any baseball game, you will know who Joe Buck is. But anyway, I mean, so political science was your background.
Yeah, that international relations.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I think at one time I had thought of going to law school. I still wish I had, but.
But do you really want to go back? Did you really want to go to law school? Just saying.
Well,
That means you have to like pass tests and stuff. So.
Yeah.
And study hard.
I'm sure it's really hard.
I mean, you got to read a lot to do
I
that.
mean, but here's the thing too, is that they
that
also, but they also have like the best float at homecoming at the University of Alabama, just saying. So the law school does have fun.
That's a great way to look at it. I never considered the homecoming float.
That was a great ball,
That's
too.
a great way to look at how you want to, what you want to major in college.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, I do kind of want to ask you another question that's, it's more of a serious question because it really related to something that I had experienced in my own family. Mm-hmm. Because I think someone told your mom when he came home from war, your dad came home from war, don't, wake him up unless you call him Sledgehammer because then he'll be prepared. And then I think it was your Aunt Octavia who said she was trying to wake him up and then he immediately went for her throat.
Right.
And, this exact same thing happened to my sister. My brother-in-law, he served in the Vietnam War. And so when he was taking a nap on the sofa and she went to go shake him to wake him up, and he immediately went for her throat as well. So it's just one of those natural instincts as a soldier. And so I know that it took him, my brother-in-law, a while to get past that. And, do you know, like, how was that process for your dad to get through that?
Yeah, I've told that story, and I've heard my mom tell that story when we were all being interviewed by HBO in Hollywood, when they were making The Pacific. And that is one of the coolest stories. If you could have met my mom, you would have loved to have her sit here and do what we're doing now.
Yeah.
Because when they asked her, and my mother was a lovely lady, and she just had this lovely soft voice with just a wonderful, soft accent. And she told that story in one of our HBO interviews, because there were quite a few, of one of Gene's friends told me, don't grab him by the shoulder or jostle him to wake him up.
Yeah.
And she said, what do I do if I need to wake him up in the middle of the night? And she said, he told me to just lean over and whisper in his ear, Sledgehammer.
Which was his nickname.
Right.
Sledgehammer.
Everybody called him Sledgehammer. And that's what they would do. It's two men to a foxhole. If they heard a Japanese soldier out there rustling around, probably trying to sneak up on him to, bayonet him or use a knife on him, Sledgehammer.
Yeah.
And she said, and to hear, I still remember the way she said it. One night, I tried it. I leaned over and I said, Sledgehammer. And he was instantly awake. And that's the thing. I mean, so truth sometimes may not be as dramatic as fiction.
Yeah.
But it's really cooler because, fiction would be, he came up, charging, ready. No, the truth was, she said he just instantly was awake. She said, I felt his body tense up.
Yeah.
And he was instantly awake, which if you read my book, because I talk about it, nighttime infiltrators on Peleliu, Okinawa, everywhere in the Pacific, that was a never-ending threat. And the Japanese prosecuted that part of their military strategy to horrific effect.
Wow.
So 2 guys to a foxhole, one guy sleeps as best he can, the other guy stays awake.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
It is terrifying. But, one of the cool things is that he did move past that and that he was able to, because he seems like he was a pretty cool dad to have around.
Yeah, he absolutely was. That was, again, he was so good at compartmentalizing. Eugene Sledge was so good at compartmentalizing that angsty, horrible stuff.
Yeah.
And so many of our conversations about the war, took that form of, I was fascinated by the things he carried, which I know that's a book title, The Things They Carry, But his combat pack, his K-bar, he had these things. I have these things. Some of them will go to the World War II Museum here in November. Some of them won't. That's another damn story. But
podcast part 2.
I talk about the 45, his 45, and the fascination I had with that pistol, knowing he had carried that through combat. And the day he took me out in the woods and we shot it, and that, like the way I described that. And have you each of you read the book?
No, not yet.
Just you. I went through, and this is kind of getting down in the weeds of how a writer writes, but I had just this certain feel I was trying to go for. And I probably went through those last couple of chapters, I don't know how many times. I went through the whole manuscript multiple times after my editors would send it back to me. But those last couple of chapters, man, I went through them because there was just such a specific feel I was going for.
Yeah.
And anyway, I don't want to get, because if people haven't read it, then
Well, I think sometimes, did you revisit where you shot the pistol?
Well, no, because that was out in the woods behind. It was down in Montevallo, out in the woods behind the house on Cardinal Crest Road, which of course I did revisit the house, as I write about in the epilogue. And the idea of doing that.
And the house was much smaller and different than you expected. That's the way it always is.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, I've gone to my childhood home before, and it's like, this is not what I remember. Why is this room so small? How did we get all of our furniture in this room?
Sure.
Y'all played Tetris. Y'all were masters at it, okay? That's how my mom moved us. We played a lot of packing Tetris.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to go back to the house, though. I mean, sometimes that feels like a little bit of closure as well.
I've actually been back a couple more times once with my Fox Nation producer for the documentary that they did, and then with another friend of mine who's a YouTuber. I didn't want to go back I really didn't want to go back the first time, but I took a buddy of mine, Leighton, who I write about in the epilogue. And I'm so glad I did that, because so many of the ways of handling certain things in there just came to me at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and just woke me up. And the idea of because I remember getting to the end of the unpublished material and the end of the narrative of the battles and all that. And then I'm thinking, okay, I gotta bring all this home. I gotta find a way to end this, and I gotta find a compelling way to end this. And it just, and this is not the only time it happened. I could get down in the weeds. Maybe later I will on certain things that 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I'd go downstairs and just bang it out on my laptop but that idea of walking through those halls and those rooms of the house I watched where I grew up, where I saw my dad write that book, I thought if I can pull it off the right way, it'll be a cool way to end this.
It's perfect. Yeah. Definitely. I want to ask you one last question before we go to our next segment. I noticed that your dad had a lot of humor in his writing, like when he was talking about a mosquito getting stuck in his ear, or, swatting a wasp out of some woman's hair in church, or I don't know, there was, these colorful nicknames that he gave some of his people that he worked with. But I mean, I think there was another one where there's some, you talked about grenades, where somebody's pulling a grenade out, the pin out with their teeth, and he says, "Watch this." That's kind of like, somebody saying, "Hold my beer," So I feel like your dad probably had a great sense of humor, and I know you do as well. Do you think you picked that up from him? I mean, is that something that he showed you when you were growing up, or is it just something that maybe you picked up from his writings?
What, the sense of humor?
Yeah.
Oh, that's coded in.
Okay, so that's part of your DNA.
My son, which people say he looks like me, I think he looks like his mama, fortunately for him. He definitely has her eyes, but people have been around, they're like, if you see his sense of humor.
Yeah.
He is all mine.
Spot on.
I mean, doing the imitations, the voice is the same.
Oh, poor kid.
It is.
So mean.
Oh man, yeah, he's all mine.
That's awesome.
Poor kid. All right, well, Henry, I appreciate that. So we've reached this point where on this segment, we like to call this Before You Go. So before you go, we just ask you some more little random questions that are not about the book, but more about you. And so one of the first questions I wanted to ask is I wanted to know how much of a method actor you really are, or a method writer, because your dad talks about, his rations, like the CPAC and the KPAC. And I wanted to know, have you ever actually eaten an MRE or anything? Because he talked about it being like dog food. So have you ever had any?
I have never eaten World War II K rations or C rations.
Okay.
I will take him at his word that it tastes like wet dog food.
I don't think he's missing out on anything. No. I feel like that's okay.
They've given those out here after tornadoes, so I've seen them. I've just never eaten them.
The MREs are a step up from World War II.
Right.
For sure.
Which a lot of those rations were used in Vietnam. So, but the answer is no, because I'm sure you've got some other awesome, totally trivial questions.
It's important.
I'll ask the next one.
Who does your eye makeup?
Our viewers our viewers and listeners want to get to know you better. So
So besides your father and your brother, of course, do you have other favorite authors?
Well, I mean, yeah, so I read a lot of World War II history. I will tell you, so if we want to I don't read a lot of fiction, okay, but I do read some. There is a series of books by Patrick O'Brien.
Yes.
Master and Commander. The movie Master and Commander?
Yeah.
That movie, which came out in 2007 or...
It's been a while, yeah.
It's been a while. Russell Crowe was in it and Paul Bettany. That movie was based on the series of books, the Aubrey Maturin books. It's a series of 21 historical novels of English seafaring men in the 17 and 1800s, the Napoleonic Wars. I've read that series probably 8 times and just started it for the 9th time.
Wow.
But I also just started a really cool book on the Rolling Stones. I like a lot of rock and roll biographies and stuff like that.
Nice.
But to pick out one author that, he's my favorite, I guess I've never really thought about it.
It's a hard question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many.
It's more subject matter and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you have surrounded yourself with military history. Has any of it rubbed off on your son? Does your son have any interest in military history or the military in general?
So Jack has really shown, I think, a great degree of respectful interest in who his grandfather was. He's seen the Pacific. He's watched it I've watched it with him. I brought him along slowly with it. One of his past girlfriends, he sat down and watched all of it with her. I thought that was pretty cool. He's watched some of it with his buddies. So he has this degree of respectful interest. Does he have an interest in going into the military? I don't think so. And I'm not seeing that. His mother doesn't see that. So I would say probably not.
What about becoming a historian? Do you think he might wander down that side of things?
Look, he's going to go to college and change his major 3 times.
Exactly.
So
That's true.
Right?
Or
we all
his
did?
minor 1,000 times.
He's more interested in cool pickup trucks and good-looking girls, and
that's perfect.
He's a boy. It's understandable.
he's no different.
So speaking of
I didn't really say that, y'all.
It's okay.
speaking of being a young boy, you did mention in this book that you were in the 7th grade marching band. So we want to know what instrument you played, and do you still play?
7th grade marching band, I hated marching band. Oh, God, I hated that. I played trumpet at that time. I play guitar now.
Oh,
Nice.
So, but I didn't pick that up till 2012 and self-taught, just YouTube videos. But no, I just totally dig all kinds of like rock, punk rock. There's just a lot of stuff that,
That's your generation, that Generation X is coming out in you. Gotcha.
But yeah, so I play guitar, not well. Not well at all.
That's okay.
But I have fun with it.
Look,
That's all that matters.
I don't sing well,
Yes.
but I love to sing. They hate
you
it.
can wear it out
I
in the
sing all the
shower,
time.
right? I mean,
I do it in the car really loud.
so yeah.
I'll rock out with you. Okay.
Okay.
You're
It's
speaking
a
my
great
language,
time.
Do you
right?
play guitar or something?
I do not. I have no musical talent, but
I don't
I
either.
am very good at it.
I don't either.
None of us do, so let's start a band.
We'll call it the Sex Pistols.
There you go.
Sid Vicious couldn't play a damn thing, but he was a cool bass player because
and
he
had an
looked
even
like
awesome
it. He had the
name.
look.
He had the look.
Johnny Rotten said he can't play worth, but he's got the look.
There you go.
Okay, so that's it. We got to get the look, and then we're starting our band.
Rock on.
I don't think I'll ever have the look.
We could call it three chicks and a bald-headed dude at the table. How about that?
Love it.
There you go. Oh my goodness. So I guess like all of us here, we really love animals. And Rebecca told me you grew up with a German Shepherd. So do you still have a dog or a cat person now or anything else?
So growing up, I'm a total dog person.
Yeah.
Okay, my wife is too. Yeah, I love animals. Always
me
have.
too.
We had dogs growing up. I talk about them, Holly and Lady, and there were many others. So I did not like cats growing up. My wife was a dog person and a cat person. And so when she and I got serious and got married, we got serious first, then we got married. It tends to work better that way. She kind of brought me into the realm of appreciating the mercurial creatures that are cats.
Well, you have to appreciate them.
She had a cat named Rocky. And when I would go visit her over at her parents' house, Rocky was the cat that converted me because he was so cool.
Aw.
He would just come walk along the sofa and plop down and just sit there and look at me, and I thought, man, this is pretty cool. It's a totally different experience from the, what you get from a dog.
Yep.
But yeah, total dog person.
Yeah.
We do have a cat. We have a dog. So
That's good.
So I just have heard that you have mentioned meeting Bob Hope. Who have you met that you were most in awe of?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, so you look at a lot of these guys who I wrote about. I mean, I met a lot of my dad's World War II veteran buddies. Yeah, I mean, I've met Tom Hanks more than once, okay? I mean, I didn't meet Steven Spielberg, but I was in the room with him.
Right.
I've met a lot of actors, a lot of the guys from the Pacific, some guys from Band of Brothers. Here's the thing when it comes to actors. I appreciate their talent in their chosen craft. But if you are an actor and you portrayed a certain historical person, that does not make you that historical person.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not denigrating actors.
Sure.
I have some damn good friends who are actors. But an actor puts on a costume and repeats a line that he was given to say. And that's not to denigrate them, but I met the guys who did it for real.
Yeah. It's a huge difference.
But I don't know. I mean, my whole thing about being in awe of somebody, that's maybe I just don't look at it the same way. I mean, people tell me like Eugene Sledge was some kind of war hero to them. I never saw him that way.
Because he was dad.
He was dad. He was a 60 millimeter mortarman. I would never, and now we're kind of getting down in the weeds on what the different job descriptions are in the military. I would never elevate a 60 millimeter mortarman over, say, a BAR man or a machine gunner or a rifleman or a fighter pilot. I mean, the bottom line is it took everybody, you know, and so, and my father certainly wasn't the kind of guy. I mean, he really wasn't the kind of guy to get in awe of anybody.
Right.
So I've met some cool people, you know. Meeting Tom Hanks was great. I mean, Tom Hanks is a friend. I mean, and you could, maybe people like him or don't like him, but he certainly had an appreciation for my father and my father's writing. And, you know, that played out very well in the Pacific miniseries. But yeah, I mean, I've met some cool people and it's interesting, but who I'm in awe of, I don't know if that's.
Yeah.
Well, let's just put it this way. I'm in awe of you. I think we all are because you've just been such a fantastic guest here today.
I'm loving his face going, really?
Really, Rebecca? Well, you know how to talk to your guests. I'll give you that.
Well, I do appreciate you. I mean, I really do.
thank you.
You've been a great guest. And honestly, we could keep going, but we do have a time limit. So we're
Sure.
going to have to cut it here. But we do appreciate you joining us today.
I'm
It's
really
been a lot
honored.
of fun. We appreciate you.
I'm honored that you had me. I appreciate
Yes.
it. I
Of
never
course.
take
So
that for
much.
granted.
Of course.
Thank you.
All
We
right.
love having you.
So we do want to thank our guest, Henry Sledge, for being on this episode of Coffee and History, a conversation of Alabama heritage. You can find our podcast wherever you listen, and you can also watch us on our YouTube channel. Don't forget that if you want to subscribe to our magazine, which is a quarterly, log on to alabamaheritage.com. Until next time, thanks for listening. But first, I think I need more coffee. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Coffee and History, a conversation with Alabama Heritage, is brought to you by the good folks at Wind Creek Hospitality and the Porch Creek Indians. Our theme music is composed by Paul Lewis Reeves and Jay Price. Our editor, Robert Briscoe, ensures we sound fantastic. Listen each Tuesday for new episodes wherever you get your podcast, or visit our website at alabamaheritage.com.